like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast for the Top Gun Sales Bootcamp training. And whew, we're going into week, is it 7? Yes. So, are you guys all ready for that?
Sure.
Nice. Good to see the energy, the passion.
No.
And so, man, I wish you'd have recorded the previous one. There was somebody thinking about getting into sales. And warned him. He didn't see the warning coming, and it took all of about 15 minutes. And poor guy. So it'll be interesting what happens from there. Um, so sales it's so much like Top Gun, Navy training SEALs, like it's just crazy. So Nora and I yesterday we did we went ahead and went through and reviewed the last week's sales, like who are our hot prospects, and then what we're going to do this week and stuff. I've got them now into my phone, into a group. So it's about disciplines, it's about consistency. So on Mondays, it's like on Saturday or Sunday, you ought to review over your previous week. And then look over your action vision plan. And then, what I do right, what I do, this last week, and what am I going to do this week? It wasn't perfect. Like we didn't run over the numbers, the PPA once we get that. And so you get it down into a system of consistency. You get it down into a consistent position of consistency, then it's faster. So it might take an hour, 2 hours, but if you go ahead and if it takes 2 hours the first time, if you get it down where you're doing the same thing, every weekend, and that's just what you do. And so how bad do you want it? And what are you willing, and what's the amount? It goes into the what do you want? Like Tom Coons, this is his here. So the 5 levels of want. So you say you want, the income, or you want the freedom, or you want the prestige, or you want whatever you want. And so level 1 is I want it if no work, sacrifice, risk is required by myself and or those around me. Level 2 is I want it if a little work is required. Level 3 is I want it if hard work is required. Level 4 is I wanted it and I'm willing to do the required work, make the required sacrifice, and take the required risks. And level 4 is I want it and will have it regardless of what is required, i.e. my life vision, like what I was put on this planet for. So most people have, the bigger the want you have, the higher you've got to match your level of work and sacrifice and risk. Questions? Nora, what you got?
I was at 38% last week.
And what were you the previous week?
23.
You go, girl. So what percentage increase is that? Anybody know? It's a 65% increase in work productivity. So Tom says in sales, you know your numbers. And so you could have, like in the PPA, it'd be really cool to have like that graph, like, each day and then each week and then each month and then each quarter to go ahead and see how do I go ahead. And so if you had, 38%, so this week you could be, if you had the same growth, you'd have 63, you'd be up to 63%. So I think Kenny and Luke were a positive 60% variance. And so what that means is normally on Action Vision, there's a positive 4% variance. So if you do 90% of your plan, you get 94% results. If you do 50% of plan, you get 54% results. If you do 10% of plan, you get 14% of results. So there's a positive 4% variance. And so, but Kenny and Luke had, if they say a 60% variance, you need 40% of the plan, do 40% of the work to get 60% of the effort. So either you're really, really good or your goal is too low. Theoretically, you might have scored yourself too hard too. I don't know. Something. I mean, it's not bad, but there's something off on it too. And so questions? So again, on Action Vision, what you go through is your mind goes through a bending. It goes through bending exercise. It goes through a like mind bending. Like I can't do everything. I have to, I can't, I have to, I can't, I have to, I can't. And then lower the goal. I don't want to, I can't lower the goal. Like if that's an option to lower the goal, you'll lower the goal and you'll do less. And you won't put yourself in a situation to grow as much, as you are in that. Is that bad to do that? Is it bad to lower a goal?
Depends.
Depends.
Right? On what?
Everything.
Right? So why is it that it seems like I can't lower my goals? Why is that?
I feel like most of the time, if you would just lower your goal, then you'd kind of stop growing, stop challenging yourself.
Right.
The goals don't mean as much.
Right? Yeah, good. Right, because so it's like it's not that big a deal. Like Luke experienced that with the Dreamscape, where I don't know, 6 months into, he says, "Well, why don't we just lower the goal?" No, no. I didn't care if they lowered the goal, but the thing is, the principle. Like my parents, when we were kids, we couldn't quit anything. Like if we said we were going to do something, you did it. You followed through. Now my mom told me that I kind of put that on steroids. Like she's like, Mark, you have 4 jobs. You're 15 years old. Like 2 full-time jobs in the summer and 3 part-time jobs and your own business. And so like what, like Alan Petlin, who, Kenny knows, like he and Nora helped me to discover something about myself. Or Nora said, if you're around Mark, you have to grow. And I'm like, man. So now I like in my sleep last night, I was thinking, why is that? Not, and it's not just little growth, it's huge growth. It's like and Alan's the one that did it because he asked Nora questions. And between, Alan and Nora, they revealed something deep, deep about me. Like one of the most significant, it explains so much. I mean, and at Jim Bontrager, he noticed it and he put it in, the, 2.5 minute video on Mark Boersma for Dummies. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. It's like when, Alan Petlin, which, Kenny and Luke know. So there's things about ourselves that we're like, oh yeah, no, that's that's true. But we don't understand the significance of it. And so, okay, anything else, Nora, you have?
Not right now.
Luke, what you got?
Friday I did 30%. Don't know, currently I'm not tracking my weekly.
So you want to do that big time. At some point, you'll go small and big. It's interesting. Here's an interesting piece. I don't know if you guys knew this. Like every time scientists discover something smaller in the universe, they discover something bigger. Infinitely small and infinitely big. Why is infinitely small a lot harder to comprehend mentally than infinitely big?
Don't know.
It's the same reason that mentally it's easier to do addition than subtraction. Like if you have 0 minus 1, what do you get? A -1. How do you have a -1? The mind isn't wired to have negative things. It's like negative. It's not. And so infinitely small, it's like, and so what you'll do is you'll start to go ahead and look at, you look at the day and then you'll look at going up the week. And then you go down and you go into the hour and then into the minute. Like the $155,000 an hour story, the good news, the good, bad, and great news story. You guys know that one, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Luke and Kenny, do you both know that?
Yes.
Kenny?
I think so.
So you guys have to get the reflexes like Nora. Like she's internalizing. So the reason she's able to learn so fast is she internalizes things quickly, really fast.
How did she do that?
Nora?
Mm, I don't know. I think I try to like apply it to something that I've gone through in life that's similar, or try to personalize it, maybe.
I think she also, rather than put the, pain in the closet, I think she feels her pain very different than other people. So she doesn't look at pain like somebody a few days, well, it was a few weeks after Jonathan died. Vera from Russia called me. Like we connected through LinkedIn or something. Only had one conversation with her ever in my life. And she's like, we're talking, and all of a sudden, it was a couple of weeks after Jonathan's death, and she's like, it's like, do you know why we talked about Jonathan's death? And she's like, do you know why you've healed so quickly? I'm like, I don't know, I have some ideas. And she's like, it's because you look at death differently than other people. And I'm like, okay. And I said, and I knew what she was talking about, but I didn't, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe I thought I did, and I did. She says, I said, what do you think? How do you think I look at death? She says, you don't look at Jonathan as being dead. You don't look at your mom and your dad and your grandmother as being dead. You look at them as living through you, like they're still a part of your life. And so you look at death very, very different than other people. So when you can look at death very different than other people, then what happens is you can look at anything differently. So most people, what they do is they avoid pain. They put it in a room. And so I don't know, will this one be connected back into the, your voice in my headset? And so Kenny, we'll see if we can swing back around. Kenny, what you got?
I just looked at the numbers. We're at overall, we're at 56% for the leads. Yeah, I don't track my weekly either. But this morning with Spencer, that I was just wondering, is that avoidable or is that a reason?
Right?
What's the reason? I mean, I get the reason behind, why you wouldn't want to avoid it because, would rather do it in 15 minutes than in 2 years.
Right. But my heart just breaks for him.
I guess what determines if that's a route that a person takes or that if it goes that way for a person?
Well, it says, in your voice in my headset. So Rosanna, my wife, she went ahead and read some on Facebook and she said it, this is why you never go, like when you're playing golf, you never putt short. You never putt short. It's a good thing in life. You never quit like short.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't. Like at 20 years of marriage, it would have been easy to quit, really easy to quit. But I had 20 years. I mean, I was 40, so I had 40 years. You just don't quit, Mark. You just don't. And so she said, when trauma gets triggered, you don't act your age, you act the age your wound was created. And so Spencer, it was really cool, sad, but I don't know, maybe it can still be, rescued. I don't know. But he's a magnifier just like me. But he's got 20 to 40 years of patterns, and if he doesn't learn how to discipline those patterns, he's going to hurt himself and other people around him. And so there is something, when trauma gets triggered, you don't act your age, you act the age the wound was created. Think of it this way: your mind is a house, and somehow, somewhere in that house, there's a locked room that you haven't opened for years. Something happened in that room when you were 8, 14, or a younger version of you. Something happened in that room. So what you did was turn off the lights and shut the doors and keep on living in the rest of the house. But that room doesn't disappear, it just waits. The moment something enters into your mind and sounds like the old fear, that door comes barreling open, and all of a sudden you're right back at the age that the hurt happened. And that's why you shut down. That's why you panic. That's why you get defensive. It's why you quit. It's why you become the 9Ds. They all kick in because it's never today's version of you reacting. It's still the young version of you trapped in that room that you never got to finish the story. But here's the thing: true healing is not pretending that room doesn't exist. It's walking back in that room, turning on the lights and making sure that the younger version of you finally feels safe. Is it feeling safe or is it feeling strong? Like it blew me to pieces last time. Well, this time I'm stronger, I'm different. Because when you do that, you stop reacting as that younger version of you, and your reactions finally start growing out, growing up with you. And when you stop acting like that entire room doesn't exist, you take your entire house back. And then he added something to it this last week. Imagine being bitten by a snake. Imagine being bitten by a snake. And so, and instead of trying to recover from the poison, you are trying to catch the snake to find out why it bit you and to prove to the snake that you didn't deserve to be bitten. So in life, that's what happens. So in being a police officer, you've got to learn how to control your anger and temper like nobody's business. You've got to learn how to feel things and so because you're going to have it every day. And then 7 to 10 years into it, you go ahead and get burned out. And it's like, well, I can't do anything else because this is all I've done. And I hate it, but I have to keep doing it. So the same thing can happen in a marriage. Same thing can happen in friendships.
Interesting thought I had Saturday night was, I usually approach people as, as their friends, with the thought in mind of, they mean me no harm, and, everybody's friendly.
Yeah.
But then there was one interaction we had where it was a little hostile, and, well, the police officer did what police officers do. Is like you order him around, tell him what to do.
Right.
That was like right at the first at the greeting. There was no friendly interaction before that.
Right. Yeah, there was a whole thing when I was working with Jim Bontrager. We were talking about doing a course based on de-escalation. So it's one of the biggest challenges in law enforcement, especially today, because there's so much disrespect for authority. There's no respect for authority, and there's no fear. Like the gal's got a gun. Why would you like why would you go ahead and mouth off? Why would you not do? But in Malcolm Gladwell's book about, I forget which one it was, but the one where he talks about a police officer and, where he pulled somebody over and then she died.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, jeepers. And so that's where the personality stuff, and that's why I believe, sorry, off topic, but is it? But that's why I believe that Life GPS, that's why I believe that Life GPS can save police officers' lives. Why? If you get everybody in the community on Life GPS going through it and understanding themselves and their own triggers, like if you're going to let them go, give them a card and say, hey, be more careful, be nice to him. You let him go. Okay. Well, he's going to do it again. He hasn't learned his lesson and somebody's going to die. So you're in a difficult situation. There's so much gray in law enforcement. And so what are you supposed to do? So there was an option. Somebody else wasn't intoxicated. So she drove. So he had leeway. and he chose to have mercy and grace. But there's a high statistical probability it's going to happen again. Somebody's going to die. And so if you're going to have grace or mercy, do something about it, right? Like, I don't know, here's a card and there's a nonprofit organization, and, I think it will help you. And then he goes in and he finds out about intoxication, about addictions. He finds out about trauma. He finds out about all of this stuff. And so maybe they're like, when he sobers up, when he wasn't over the limit, or you go out to a domestic abuse situation where, where the wife is feeling threatened, but the husband hasn't done anything. Like, he hasn't hit her. He maybe belly bumped her, but, maybe he put his stature in front of the door and she felt threatened. And here's this little gal and this big guy, and the police come out and say, there's nothing we can do. That wife, that mother, that woman, like, she feels lost. Like, the police can't protect me against my own husband. Well, here's something, sir. Here's something, ma'am, that might help you. Like, they do court ordered stuff. It's like, so he sobers up, and next day he's really thankful for police officers. So he has a good impression. Like, that guy could have busted me, and I was even mouthy, and he didn't escalate it, and nobody ended up dying, and I didn't end up, in trouble. And so, Becky, what you got?
Last week I got 15% weekly, like
What'd you do the week before?
30, I think.
So you're going to have cycles that just are. And the key is not to let them, not to, like Luke on the he was asking about emotional cycles. And so, that's where everything connects back into your sales. It just does. But sales can be like a drug. It can, like if I work and I'm productive, I feel good about myself. So I apologize. I forget which stories I tell. But be like me when I'm around Tom Coons, where all the stories matter. Like Tom's, grandfather when he was a teenage boy. And he said, Tom, this is called the Grandpa Chappelle principle. His grandfather, Grandpa Chappelle. And he says, Tom, what I'm going to say to you, he's 15 years. He says, it's not going to have a lot of meaning to you now, but it will in the future. All I ask is that you write it down. So Grandpa Chappelle knew that a 15-year-old boy is not going to listen to him. Why? Because 15-year-old boys don't. But Tom did. But maybe it's because Tom wrote it down. And so write these things down, because in sales, I'm just telling you. You'll use it. And in life, you're going to use it too. So I've built up stamina for the first 2 years of marriage that were just brutal. Not what I had. They were not my dream. This was not my dream came through. Like, it was brutally hard. Brutally hard. So sales, first 3 months, I didn't give up. Why? Because I had built up, strength. I didn't give up when I was, 8 years old. I didn't give up when I was 15. I didn't give up. I didn't run from my problems. If you have a pattern, the longer your pattern is, the harder it is to break. Luke, what you got?
How do you, so last week in an email, there was something said about using technology and AI to kind of like streamline the sales side or clone yourself, basically. Does
Oh,
that ring?
yeah, no, I get it. So you have the 530 grid. So they say that my age, I'm 61 years old, they say that I should be using, AI more. I'm one of the lowest uses of age group of anybody. And they say I should be using it more than anybody because I know how to ask better questions. And that's what AI is. It's just asking questions. So like so if you use it for multiple things, you understand it's a tool, is what it is. It's like computers when they first came out. Businesses, salespeople who use those computers gained an edge over other salespeople until it was an advantage. So when I got into sales, I'm 23 years old. There were computers, we had them, but they weren't as prevalent as what they are today. Not even close. Like my first laptop cost me $3,500. And so I invested into that. And so eventually, eventually it's like you have an advantage in sales. You have an advantage in sales until everybody starts using it, and everybody will. And the ones that use it the best, they're the ones that'll make the most money. And they're the ones that will go ahead and have the greatest advantage. But if you don't keep up, if you don't get out in front of it, and that's where the driver has an advantage because the driver will see into the future. The driver will see into the future. They can see what's going to happen before it happens. And if you see into the future, then you're able to go ahead and enjoy the present better. You'll have better understanding of the past. So it's all of these different energies that combine together, and we're strong in one area, and that strength gives us. Ooh, I just had an idea, interest, or a thought that just hit me. Anybody else have anything else?
What was your thought?
So my brother Dan went ahead and said, Mark, have you ever thought you can speak things into existence? Like what you speak happens. I'm like, no, I'm not God. like, no, like, no, I hadn't thought that. But then Elaine comes and she says what she does, and Nora says what she does, and I'm like, jeepers. So I see Spencer's patterns in the last 20 years and potentially last 40 years. And I'm like, this is most likely his future, but it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. In Navy SEALs, they don't try to keep people in a program.
It's actually kind of cool.
right? There's a movie, I don't know which one it is, about Navy SEALs, and they go ahead, and when you tap out, when you go ahead and ring the bell, everybody claps for you.
What is that?
I don't think it's mocking you that you're a quitter. I think it's clapping that you got as far as you got. There's no shame. Like there's no shame in doing it, but you're just not cut out for the Navy SEALs. You just aren't. And that's okay. So Dan Graham's like when I was 20, I'd have been 28 years old. And Dan Graham went ahead and started his company, a mortgage company, some big guy. Like he played center, the hiker for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And like he was probably of every salesperson I've ever recruited and trained, Dan was the best. Bar none. The guy was a machine. I remember coming in a few weeks or a few months after he started, he came in, he's like, okay, what do I do next? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, okay, I've done this, and it's all working. What do I do next? I'm like, it's working? Like, really? Oh, like, I'm like, I was stunned. I'm like, this stuff actually works? Seriously. Why nobody had ever done it. So Dan, being a professional football player, he had been trained like Frank Forte. He was in the military, had 3 sons in special ops, like I don't know, like the Army Rangers and the the Navy SEALs and the whichever the other, every one of the different forces have their own special ops. And Tom, he was in the Army Rangers. And normally there's testosterone between the groups, and our group's better than your groups. But Tom just said, yeah, those Navy SEALs, those dudes, I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like it's insane. That'd be so cool, Nora, to get Tom. We could do a special session and get Tom talking about Army Ranger days and the Navy SEAls.
Are the Green Berets are those Navy?
I don't know. Top Gun is going to be, that's going to be Air Force. Must be.
I had an uncle that was a Green Beret.
Yeah. Yeah, those dudes, like, they think differently. Like Nora's got it in her blood. Like she's got some sass. Like yeah. And so
Maybe that's why I was his favorite niece.
right. There's something, they think differently. And so I love Kenny brings up Spencer. So I don't know, should the system have better prepared, Spencer? Oh, and so Dan, so I'm 28, 29 years old, and I might have been, it might have been Nora's age. I might have been 30. Anyways, that's important, which age. 29, 30, 31, those are very anyways. So Dan, we'd have sales training. So this is when I was like 30, let's say. I'm 30 years old. That's half the age that I am now. And so I'd ask people 1 to 10, how direct, like I did with Spencer, like 1 to 10, how direct would you like me to be? And men being men, they're like 10, give me the whole thing. I'm like, okay. Dan would tell his guys, he says, this is at 30 years old. Dan would tell his guys, don't ever go ahead and ask Mark for a 10. He said, I've never seen anybody like him. He said, I've seen Mark taking grown men and just break them down and put them in tears. So it's learning how to control that energy. You know, it's learning how to control it and how to discipline it. And your heart just breaks for people because you can see their potential. But, and Frank Forte, so he had 3 of his sons in special ops. And somebody came up to him once and said, somebody said to him, you must be really proud of your sons. And he says, why is that? He says, because they're so disciplined. And he laughed. He said, they're not disciplined. They're not disciplined. He's a dad. He knows his sons. He said, they discipline themselves to a system. And that's really what Top Gun, sales training is all about. It's all about disciplining yourself to a system. That's crazy. Anything else any of you guys have?
No.
Oh, you all have been trained from birth, from your sales birth. You're going to make money based on developing people.
What about if developing people sucks? Absolutely sucks. Just do it anyway.
I don't know. I would. I mean, do you want to be a husband?
Ideally, yes.
That sucks. Do you want to be a father?
Ideally, yes.
That sucks even
Or
more. So
I think I want to.
So if you're going to do that, you want to go ahead and do you want to be a slave?
Not really.
Isn't that the same thing?
Really not. It's not even close. No, not even close. I mean, unless you choose slavery, like in the South during, after they went ahead and gave freedom to the slaves, I think 60% of the slaves did not leave the plantations. They continued to work.
Without getting paid?
I don't know what they did. I mean, when you're a slave, you got paid, room and board and food. So the mind is, Napoleon Hill says, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. That's one of Tom's favorite quotes is, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And so, but you got to be willing to do the work. You got to be willing to make the sacrifice. You got to be willing to take the risk. You got to be willing to submit yourself to the system. You got to be willing to discipline yourself to the system. And so it's a choice you make. Like Roseanne and I, we were really close friends for 6 months. Like brother and sister. Like a sister that I didn't have. I mean, I have 2 sisters, but I'm not saying anything bad about my sisters. I'm just saying like my wife, she was nice to me. And so and then we started dating, and we dated for 6 months, and then we got engaged. And I told her, I said, honey, we're moving really fast on this. So if there's anything that that you and I, like, you're not forced into marriage, I'm not forced into marriage, we're both going in free will. And so there's something about you that I don't know, something about me that you don't know. It's on you and I. See, the Top Gun boot camp, sales boot camp training it's so much more than sales. I'm telling you, it's so much more than sales. And so, there's things about my wife in 41 years of marriage. There's a number of things that like I didn't know, and that's on me. What it's like an indentured servant is where you're over in Europe and you didn't have a way to pay for yourself to come over to America. So an indentured servant is you say, hey, you pay for me to come over to America and I'll serve you for 3 years, 7 years, whatever you negotiated. So you're a servant, not a slave. But there's responsibilities that come with freedom. There's risks that come with freedom. So it's a choice. So it's almost like here, ooh, we got to get that video in there. We'll see if we do. Ooh, that's a great video. Like I wonder, like the four of you, I think you're all going to be level 4 friends with me. Like we're going to go on this journey together. We're going to be lifelong friends. And whether Kenny, you know, whether Kenny stays in sales the rest of his life, which he will, it's selling his value system, his life vision, his passions, what he wants to somebody else, whether it's in business or whether it's in law enforcement, I don't really care. Whatever God puts on his heart, I want to help him to pursue whatever God puts on his heart. Because when I was his age, there was something that was put on my heart and nobody was there to help me. Which was fine, right? It's okay. Like, it's okay. It really is. Because when there's nobody there, maybe that's when you feel closest to God. I don't know, your creator. I don't know. So if you're young, like me, who's 61 years old, like you have the heart of a 3-year-old. And the mind of a 63-year-old. And the wisdom of a 103-year-old. And how do you accelerate that faster? So this one definitely went longer. Wow. And we try to keep it right at 30 minutes in the future. If you can leave at 30 minutes, leave at 30 minutes. If you can do that, do it. Like, just do it. Anything beyond 30 minutes is a gift from you to me to you, and us to one another. And so I don't know, do you go through this Top Gun sales boot camp training? Do you go through with 4 other people? At least, I would say. Like, and you make a pact that wherever you end up in life, we're always gonna be together. Like, we'll always be a phone call away. Like, we're always gonna be there for one another for the rest of our lives. I don't know, that would be cool. Like, I wish when I was in my 20s and my 30s, I wish there had been a system out there like this. And there wasn't, and it's okay. But I have been blessed to be able to be part of this. And it is wow, what a wonderful privilege. So thank you all for your participation in this. Thank you all for your friendship. Thank you all for sticking with things. Thank you for trusting the integrity of the system. And when the integrity of the system fails, which it will, they all do, every system fails. You're a part of that system. So you will help the system gain integrity, more and more integrity in what it is. So you have any questions, connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, or you can call toll free 888-230-2300 outside the US 630-393-9909. Always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.